Ladies and gentlemen, the meeting is called to order. But before we proceed with our proceeding this afternoon, firstly I would like to inform that our substantive chair, Honourable Mr. Desiree Dubey, Prime Minister of Bhutan, has a pressing engagement this afternoon. And therefore, he's asked me to preside the rest of the afternoon session. Before we start the formal part of our business this afternoon, I would like to first give the floor to the Secretary of the Commissions to make some announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a last reminder to all delegates. If you have not done so already, the Secretariat encourages you to please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation questionnaire. We kindly ask that all members of each delegation complete a questionnaire. The use of the online version, if possible, is encouraged. The link will be shown on the screen shortly. The results will be used to improve the future sessions of the Commission. Thank you for taking the time to provide us with your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Now we will continue our considerations of Agenda Item 8, Policies Issue for the Asia-Pacific Regions. I should like to urge all the speakers to help maintain the discipline of the 5 minutes allocated to them. The first speaker in our list this afternoon is Excellency Mr. Li Baotong, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs from China. Thank you.
主席先生，首先我代表中国政府祝贺联合国亚太经社会第70届会议召开，感谢泰国政府和亚太经社会秘书处为会议所做的周到安排。本次会议以促进区域互联互通、共享繁荣为主题。顺应各国普遍的诉求，符合亚太长远需要，具有重要意义。区域互联互通是经济一体化发展的必然趋势。实现亚太地区经济一体化的要义，在于通过更广范围、更深层次、更高水平的区域互联互通。有效促进域内要素的有序自由流动和优化配置。区域互联互通可以为亚太各国可持续发展提供新的动力。亚太许多国家正处于经济转型升级的关键阶段，实现互联互通，尤其是开发基础设施建设，既是当前形势下新的经济增长点，也是促进经济结构调整的有力杠杆。区域互联互通还可以为促进亚太和平发展、增进交流互信提供坚实的保障。亚太经社会是推动区域互联互通建设的主要先行者。中国政府支持亚太经社会继续将区域互联互通作为重点工作，愿提出以下建议：第一，亚太经社会要加强对亚太互联互通规划的顶层设计，由易到难，以点带面，逐步形成全方位的区域互联互通格局。在相关规划的初始阶段，基础设施，尤其是交通的互联互通，应是优先重点。第二，要多渠道的增加投入。政府在基础设施建设中要发挥重要的作用，同时要用好市场的杠杆，支持民营部门进入基础设施产业。 此外，还要创新融资机制和商业模式，打造多样化的合作平台。第三，要从各国的现实情况和潜在的需求出发，推动实实在在的合作项目，坚持共同商量、共同建设、共同受益。各国都是平等的参与者和建设者。第四，要加强相互的借鉴，实现区域互联互通，已是亚太各国的普遍共识。各方通过双边渠道以及亚太经合组织等机制开展了大量合作。亚太社会有必要向亚太经合组织、大湄公河次区域经济合作等机制加强交流合作，形成合力。主席先生，中国是亚太互联互通合作的见证者、支持者和参与者。最近，中国领导人提出建设丝绸之路经济带和21世纪海上丝绸之路，倡议建设亚洲基础设施投资银行，体现了中国对推进区域互联互通的决心和行动，也得到了国际社会的高度关注和积极的响应。有关中国的倡议和行动，我愿在此强调3个关键词：一是开放。中国为推动区域互联互通提出的倡议，都是开放的、包容的，不搞封闭型的集团，也不会妨碍既有的多边合作格局和机制。二是分享。中国深知，唯有将自身的利益融入亚太地区的整体利益，唯有将自身增长寓于亚太地区的共同增长，中国的发展才能行稳致远。中国希望通过“一带一路”等倡议的实施和推进，与有关国家对接发展战略，共享发展红利。三是务实。衡量相关倡议是否可行、是否有效，标尺是能否解决现实问题，是否顺应各国的现实需求。在目前基础设施需求旺盛、各国财政能力有限、私人投资不活跃的情况下，中方倡议的亚洲基础设施投资银行将为地区互联互通提供新的融资途径和渠道。中方欢迎各国积极的参与亚投行的建设和运营，共同打造一个经节高效的多边发展开发银行。主席先生，中国与亚太及世界各国的前途和命运，从未像今天这样的休戚与共。我们将努力扩大和深化同亚太及世界各国的互利合作，合力构筑开放、包容、互联互通的亚太，实现共同发展、共享繁荣进步。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegate from China, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate from Solomon Islands, Honorable Conoli Santakapatu, Minister of Development Planning and Aid Coordinations. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, colleague ministers, excellencies, the Executive Secretary of ESCAP, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, the Solomon Islands welcomes the theme topic of our meeting, regional connectivity for shared prosperity. We believe it is timely as it underpins our sustainable development challenges and endeavors. For Solomon Islands, it is also very appropriate, given our geographical dispersion and the associated development challenges we face. We have a long way to go in building national connectivity through infrastructure development, inter-island transportation and communication, and renewable energy development, among others. Mr. Chairman, the report before us have always articulated the various development challenges, priorities, and policy issues facing all our countries. As a small island developing state and least developed country, Solomon Islands share the same or similar development challenges and vulnerabilities faced by other SEEDs and LDCs. The third International Conference on SEEDs in Apia this year will be an opportunity to deliberate and agree on the way forward in addressing the development challenges and priorities of SEEDs. Mr. Chairman, I wish to elaborate on some of the policy issues facing Solomon Islands, namely a narrow economic base, land issues, limited infrastructure and transportation and communication services, energy insecurity, climate change, and natural disasters. Mr. Chairman, land issues, especially access to land for development, is the biggest obstacle to development in Solomon Islands. 85% of our land is customarily owned. The government is striving to reform the customary land tenure system to allow easy accessibility and availability of land for major development projects. We are also looking at development models that include resource owners on the basis of equity shares or part owners of any company that comes in to invest, or may I say exploit our resources. Mr. Chairman, Solomon Islands has a huge infrastructure deficit. Without the appropriate infrastructure, we cannot drive economic and social development. With the support of the Pacific Regional Infrastructure Facility, we now have a national infrastructure investment plan, which contains a priority list of both existing and new projects. This plan complements our national transport plan. We are working with the Asian Development Bank and other donor partners to implement the National Infrastructure Investment Plan. I hope ESCAP could also assist in leveraging funding support towards the implementation of this plan. The successful implementation of our infrastructure investment plan will contribute to the national connectivity and generate sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Inter-island transportation and shipping is also important in our Pacific sub-region for regional trade and integration. We therefore support the resolution co-sponsored by Fiji as part of our effort to implement the Suva Declaration on improving maritime transport and related services in the Pacific. Furthermore, Mr. Chairman, there is a huge challenge or need for sustainable energy. Less than 30% of our population have access to electricity. Our electricity cost is among the highest, or is perhaps the highest in the region. There is a need to develop mini hydropower projects, solar and geothermal energy sources in the other island provinces and rural areas to drive social and economic development. Without energy security, it will be very difficult or impossible for us to attain the post-2015 development goals and outcomes of the 2014 SEEDS Conference. In this regard, Solomon Islands supports the resolution co-sponsored by the Russian Federation and Tonga on energy security, and looking forward to the second Asia-Pacific Energy Forum in Tonga in 2018. Furthermore, Mr. Chairman, my government has also undertaken reforms on our budget and planning processes, as well as on tax and revenue administration reforms in revenue administrations, have resulted in improvement in revenue collections. A new Public Financial Management Act adopted by the Parliament last year is also being implemented. This will help to ensure value for money expenditure through proper procurement requirements, enhance more transparency and accountability for usage of public funds, and thus efficient and effective service delivery for our people. And aid coordination and management strategy is also being formulated to provide a framework for promoting and managing aid efficiencies in the country. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I took the opportunity to attend a few sessions of the special event, a regional consultation on accountability for the post-2015 development on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Certainly, political commitment, leadership, and accountability at all levels, especially at the national level, are crucial to achieving the post-2015 development agenda. I also concur that Parliament or parliamentarians would need to play an active oversight role on the implementation and monitoring of the post-2015 development agenda. The means of implementations are equally important. Additional financial resources, appropriate technology, and the capacity to utilize such technology will be vital, especially for the most vulnerable members of our group, the LDCs, the LLDCs, and SEEDs. Hence, the need to intensify North-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, and South-South cooperation at all levels. Mr. Chairman, we must move beyond mere expressions of solidarity towards pragmatic and concrete actions. The future we want rests on strong national leadership, genuine partnership, and mutual accountability. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Solomon Islands, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Tuvalu, Honorable Mati Atoafa, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, to whom I now give the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable colleague ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, senior officials, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the government and the people of Tuvalu to thank the ESCAP for inviting me over to share my country's experiences and challenges, to draw out new targets, goals for LDCs. Tuvalu remains a country with special needs and unlimited challenges in years to come. The Tuvalu Strategic Plan, Sustainable Development Plan, Te Kakengalua, and MGDs have come to the end of their mandates, and although some of the strategic areas identified in these plans have been implemented, some of them remain and will continue to be challenging for least developed countries like Tuvalu. Although some of the targets in Tuvalu strategic plan have been met, there are still so many challenges remain. Small island developing states have been considered a special case in sustainable development due to the inherent challenges they face in pursuing development and reducing poverty, including their small size, remoteness from major markets and population centers, limited resource and export base, and exposure to global environmental challenges and external economic shocks. Small island developing states are particularly vulnerable to natural disasters and face a large range of impacts from climate change. Climate change has become an emerging challenge and a very crucial area that has a great impact on LDC's sustainable livelihood and development, and we are requesting ODAs or development partners to address this issue. We need to develop new development goals, both for long-term and short-term goals, and government roadmap was established around mid last year, which focuses more on short-term plans in all sectors that need immediate actions. Mr. Chairman, needs of the LDCs need to be recognized and appropriately streamlined and addressed. LDCs like Tuvalu needs national ownership by building their trust fund to ensure the country's financial status is stable and sustainable to fund national capital projects that will contribute to the country's economic development. Each LDC needs effective management systems be established if they have not been established and need to be continuously strengthened. Effective management of fisheries is also critical as we heavily rely on them for our daily consumption. Tuvalu needs assistance in all sectors as all the sectors are interrelated. In other words, all sectors need to work simultaneously as they have to work hand in hand or back to back to achieve the desired goals. LDCs, including Tuvalu, also need to focus on sustainable projects, infrastructure that will support Tuvalu economic growth. In Cotonou, Benin last week, LDC's representatives met to deliberate on the theme participation on building productive capacities in LDCs. Health and education sectors are very crucial to any country's economic development, and as such still remain as Tuvalu's priorities. More importantly, the health and education sectors will need to be streamlined in order to identify critical areas within these two sectors that will fill in the gaps. Chairman, LDCs, including Tuvalu, need a prosperous private sector. As we are all aware, a prosperous private sector is the engine of economic growth. Tuvalu's private sector cannot prosper if there is limited access for funding available for businesses. Although assistance had been provided in some areas over the past year, but Tuvalu really needs sufficient funding assistance for private sector development. Mr. Chairman, despite Tuvalu's highly dependency on external funding from donor partners, LDCs, including Tuvalu, need to focus on the types of support they really need from donor partners. Tuvalu needs to slightly vary its approach in identifying the country's actual needs that need to be solved and dealt with, and take the leading role in approaching the international community for support, what Tuvalu really needs, and to ultimately make a difference. Mr. Chairman, on that note, Tuvalu calls on ESCAP and the international community for their continuous support to assist in the many challenges LDCs and LLDCs and small islands developing states currently facing in the post-2015 development agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Tuvalu, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Sheriff Amanukama, Deputy Minister of Finance and Planning, to whom I now give the floor.
Mr. Chairman, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to participate in the 70th session of ESCAP and bring to you the greetings of President Mahinda Rajapaksa and the people of Sri Lanka. I would like to congratulate Madam Shamshed Akhtar on her appointment and assure her of our cooperation and support. At the same time, I also like to express our appreciation to Madam Noeline Heyser, the former Executive Secretary, for her contribution during her tenure of office. Sri Lanka values its collaboration with ESCAP and has benefited from its role as a regional platform and a think tank which has helped in formulating policy and practice in our development effort. As a country which has a proud record in achieving most Millennium Development Goals, we look forward to the role that ESCAP will play in formulating the post-2015 development agenda. I wish to inform you that having considered the support extended by various arms of ESCAP, Sri Lanka's government has decided to increase its current contribution fees for the Statistical Institute for Asia and the Asia Pacific Center for Alleviation of Poverty. We would also like to increase our contribution fee for the Center for Sustainable Agricultural Modernization. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take a few minutes to explain recent developments in Sri Lanka. Throughout the past decade, the government of Sri Lanka has attached great importance to the economic development of the country, even though Sri Lanka had to face 3 decades of terrorist conflict. Presently, peace and stability in the country has opened more opportunities for the economy and has greatly improved the lives of our people. Effective economic policies have resulted in sustained growth in Sri Lanka at an unprecedented pace. The economy of Sri Lanka continues to progress steadily, recording an average growth rate of 7.5% during the last 4 years. The growth of the economy rebounded to 7.5% last year from a 6.4% in 2012, reflecting domestic demand strengthening and a pickup in exports and tourism. Sri Lanka has been maintaining single-digit inflation for nearly 5 years, and the country's per capita income has risen sharply from US dollars 1,241 in 2005 to US dollars 3,282 in 2013, and is projected to increase well beyond US dollars 4,000 by 2016. With the end of internal conflict and also the transformation of the economy to a middle income status, the government of Sri Lanka has initiated a massive infrastructure development in the country with local resources as well as foreign funding. Accordingly, mobilization of foreign funding from development partners has increased considerably. Our continuous progress has been underpinned by stable and prudent macroeconomic policies followed by the Sri Lankan government. Within the medium-term fiscal framework, the government's debt management strategy is designed to reduce the government debt gradually to a lower level in line with lower fiscal deficit and higher economic growth in the range of 7 to 8%. The debt to GDP ratio is targeted to reduce below 65% by 2016 and to 60% by 2020, of which foreign debt will be around 30% of GDP. The government has been pursuing large-scale reconstruction and development projects in its efforts to spur growth in lagging areas, develop small and medium enterprises, and increase agricultural productivity. The government's fiscal consolidation efforts and strong GDP growth in recent years have helped to bring down the government's fiscal deficit. We have also taken measures to enhance the dynamism of the private sector to facilitate the country's transition to higher income status. For sharing regional prosperity and connectivity, we have invested in mass-scale infrastructure development, such as new ports, airports, and several express highways. Even so, Sri Lanka experiences a variety of changing weather patterns and suffers from climate change. In this regard, we would like to express our thanks to ESCAP for its continued support to Sri Lanka as a pilot country under the regional drought monitoring and early warning mechanism. Through this mechanism, Sri Lanka is receiving in situ satellite data and training to analyze and interpret information for the purpose of early warning of potential drought conditions. We believe that the regional drought mechanism is a good example of how regional cooperation can support member states. In closing, I wish to express my sincere appreciation for the support extended by ESCAP to my country. I look forward to further collaboration with ESCAP in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Sri Lanka, for your statement. I would like to add that His Excellency Mr. Sheriff Amanukamma is also the Senior Minister of International Monetary Policy. Thanks again for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Singapore, His Excellency Madame Siu Sen Sua, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Embassy of Singapore, to whom I now give the floor.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the Singapore delegation would like to express our appreciation to the United Nations ESCAP for organizing the 70th session of the ESCAP Commission and to the government of Thailand for their warm hospitality. Mr. Chairman, Singapore strongly believes that enhanced connectivity betters the lives of our region's people. This is most apparent in the economic field, where closer cooperation, especially within ASEAN, has boosted growth and development. Regional measures such as the ASEAN Comprehensive Investment Agreement and the Trade in Goods Agreement have helped global foreign direct investment into ASEAN nations rise to an all-time high of $116 billion last year. As a founding member of ASEAN and APEC, Singapore supports improving regional connectivity by strengthening economic linkages. At APEC's Bali summit last year, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong emphasized this point, urging members to make progress in establishing a free trade area of the Asia-Pacific. In addition, APEC formulated a framework on connectivity to enhance physical, institutional, and people-to-people links in the region. In ASEAN, Singapore works with fellow members to establish the ASEAN Economic Community, a single market production base, by 2015. 99% of goods within ASEAN is now tariff-free. However, regional financial integration has room to grow. We thank ESCAP for its support in developing ASEAN's regional connectivity master plan and encourage ESCAP to continue collaboration with APEC and ASEAN to remove remaining obstacles to trade and investment. Let me now highlight two challenges. First, infrastructural connectivity must deepen. This will support intra-regional commerce and generate multiple positive effects. For example, the East-West Corridor project in the Greater Mekong sub-region has helped motorcycle industries reduce equipment transport time from 2 days to 30 minutes. The growth of marketplaces and special economic zones along the corridor has generated incomes and even increased access to health services. The upcoming Kunming to Singapore railway network will extend this connectivity beyond ASEAN. However, there's still a long way to go, in infrastructural quality and coverage. The Asian Development Bank estimates that our region must dedicate $60 billion per year to infrastructure development for the next decade. Yet regional investment is less than 2% GDP. We encourage ESCAP to explore public-private partnerships to finance infrastructural development, particularly for countries that face funding gaps. We note that ESCAP's Northeast Sub-Regional Office helped to oversee a legal agreement this year on the transit of goods along the China-Mongolia-Russia corridor. We encourage ESCAP to pursue similar initiatives with other sub-regional offices. Given the size and diversity of the Asia-Pacific, the second challenge is to ensure that the benefits of enhanced connectivity are shared by all. To quote Rio +20, the future we want means different things to different states. We thank ESCAP for organizing the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, which gathered the concerns of diverse subgroups, such as the Small Island Developing States, or SIDS. Singapore shares many interests with other SIDS, including vulnerability to climate change and resource scarcities. We believe in sharing our experience and know-how with others in the region. In this regard, we have a partnership with ESCAP since 1997 under the Singapore Cooperation Program, which has provided training for 133 participants from 29 Asia-Pacific countries. We welcome further collaborations with ESCAP to provide technical assistance. Let me conclude by noting that ESCAP's membership is a diverse collection of nations at various stages of development. Our diversity should enable us to benefit from one another's strengths and build a network of value-adding activities to draw upon our comparative advantages. ESCAP is a valuable partner in promoting intra-regional collaboration to advance our common goals. Singapore will continue to participate constructively in discussions and to seek opportunities with ESCAP and its member countries to foster a more connected region. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Singapore, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Myanmar, His Excellency Mr. Sinwa, Deputy Minister of Transport, to whom I now give the floor.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure and honor for me to deliver a country statement at the 70th session of ESCAP. On behalf of Government of the Union of Myanmar, I would like to congratulate Dr. Shamshed Edgar for your assumption of office as Executive Secretary of ESCAP. I also congratulate Mr. Chairman for being elected as the Chairman of this session. I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Government of the Kingdom of Thailand and ESCAP for the excellent preparation and hospitality extended to our delegation. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I would like to briefly touch upon our government's reform. The first stage of reform is political reform and national reconciliation, and now we can see significant and fruitful outcomes of peace and mutual understanding among the national ethnic groups. The second stage is economic and social reforms. In compliance with its economic and political change, the government has adopted 4 economic policy objectives, namely sustaining agricultural development towards industrialization and all-round development, balanced and proportionate growth among states and regions, inclusive growth for entire population, and quality of statistic and statistical system. The third stage is a public administrative reform, which would pave the way for ensuring the good governance and a clean government. As part of effort of this, An action committee was formed in January 2013 to fight against corruption and bribery in a government organization. At the fourth stage, the government is focusing its attention to private sector development reforms in order to strengthen entrepreneurship and promote private sector participation in the national development agenda. At this stage, the government is placing great emphasis on improving the institutional infrastructure and a regulatory framework in order to facilitate business, trade, and investment. As a result, private sector credit maintained a rapid growth pace of 46% in fiscal year 2013, with a rapid increase in new business registration. Mr. Chairman, taking this opportunity, I would like to briefly touch on the theme topic, regional connectivity for shared prosperity. As you know that the Asia-Pacific region, with its dynamic economy and rich cultural diversity, is growing rapidly in significance, and it's set to play a critical and important role in the world as the 21st century unfolds. The Southeast Asian sub-region has witnessed rapid economic growth in many countries, with the ASEAN-led process of sub-regional integration having now become an increasingly important driver. Through forging linkages and economic partnerships and trade agreements with other leading economies in the wider region, such as China, India, Japan, the Republic of Korea, ASEAN is well on its way to strengthen sub-regional integration through the establishment of the ASEAN community by 2015. As mentioned in the documents of ESCAP, the recent economic success of the Asia-Pacific region has been driven largely by international trade, foreign direct investment, and the emergence of global and regional production networks and value chains. However, the region's least developed countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, and Bhutan have yet to fully benefit from the new opportunities arising from enhanced connectivity. Inequality is also becoming more pronounced in other ways in terms of access to transport, information and communication technology, and energy resources. The priority need is to narrow the development gaps through enhanced regional integration and connectivity while promoting inclusive and sustainable development. Myanmar, having been included in the LDC list as of 1987. As you all know, the identification of LDCs includes 3 criteria that are based on gross national income, human access index, and economic vulnerability index. Myanmar recently set up a national level committee as part of helping the country out of each criterion that identifies the category of least developed countries, confessing the need of time frame to make systematic preparation in cooperation with UN organizations such as ESCAP. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we agree that as globalization continues, the region's future will depend on how countries work together. It means how we have been doing so through regional networks of trade and transport, ICT, energy, and people, and how we might intensify these networks in the future. As these networks become more integrated, strategies to strengthen regional connectivity should be considered not sector by sector, but as a part of a whole. In conclusion, as mentioned above, Myanmar has been cooperating with the UN agency, bilateral and regional institutions for economic and social development of the entire people. We'll be working more closely with the UN agency, including ESCAP and a regional institution, to achieve our national development goals. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Myanmar, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Brunei Darussalam, Mr. Hama Sulamen, Permanent Secretary, Prime Minister's Office, to whom I now give the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, The Brunei Darussalam delegation would like to express our sincere appreciation to ESCAP for the excellent arrangement of the 70th session and congratulate the Prime Minister of Bhutan for being elected as the chairman, and also to Madame Shamsat Akhtar for appointment as Executive Secretary. Mr. Chairman, as mentioned by some delegates yesterday, the deadline to achieve the MDGs is next year. We would like to share that Brunei Darussalam is moving towards achieving MDGs targets. Our healthcare indicators are consistent with those of the developed nations. Educational opportunities are available for all at all levels. Brunei Darussalam has also managed to safeguard its environment and natural resources in line with the ideals of sustainable development. In the international arena, Brunei Darussalam continues to be a part of the global partnership for development and supports technical cooperation for the benefits of LDCs. We are also striving to realize our National Vision 2035 goals, which aim to have an educated, highly skilled and accomplished people with a high quality of life and a dynamic and sustainable economy. Brunei Darussalam has, with other countries, faces universal challenges in its development agenda, whereby Brunei Darussalam needs to ensure continuous development in areas such as human capital, in its economic and business environment, in protecting and empowering the vulnerable, in containing contagious disease, in ensuring food security, and in safeguarding the environment. Sustainable development thus remains as the nation's top priority in our national development policies and strategies. Mr. Chairman, we welcome this year's theme on regional connectivity for shared prosperity. We recognize that economic development are driven by international trade, foreign direct investment, and the emergence of regional and global production networks that are facilitated by the increasingly borderless world. Such development has made the role of connectivity more important as it continues to shape social and economic developments of the future. Connectivity is evolving and it is becoming multifaceted, as the connectivity of one sector is influenced by the connectivity of others. Despite the growing importance of connectivity to drive economic progress, the region's prosperity has not been shared equally, with rising income inequality both within and across countries. Against this backdrop, we can therefore see the value in factoring the region's connectivity into our national and regional development strategies. Mr. Chairman and distinguished delegates, we in Brunei Darussalam continue to promote and enhance connectivity in many aspects within and across our borders. In terms of trade and transport, we are in the process of improving our maritime and air connectivities. For maritime, we are in the process of enhancing our port capacity in order to increase the volume of container cargoes as well as to accommodate larger container ships. We are also transforming an island at the Brunei Bay into an international port center for logistic, manufacturing, and processing and other commercial activities. For air connectivity, the Brunei International Airport is currently undergoing a modernization project which aims to develop Brunei Darussalam into a competitive air logistic hub in the region and to increase flight frequencies and passenger traffic. This in turn will contribute to the vibrant growth of sectors such as tourism, trade, and investment. It will also double the airport handling capacities from the current 1.5 million passengers to 3 million passengers annually by this year. Mr. Chairman, we are also improving our connectivity with our neighbors on land. One of the just recently completed projects is the Pandaruan Bridge, or the Friendship Bridge that links Brunei Darussalam with East Malaysia. This has widened opportunities for developing the economy, business, and tourism between both countries. Furthermore, it also increases people-to-people connectivity through greater ease of access across the border. On the same note, as we observe people-to-people connectivity, we are also raising the level of awareness on issues of human trafficking. We are currently implementing a national action plan to combat trafficking in persons. At a sub-regional level, under the umbrella of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East Asean Growth Area Cooperation, we have also placed connectivity as one of our strategic pillars. Here, we have identified 12 priority infrastructure projects, and these are expected to complement the activities of the larger regional grouping of ASEAN. Mr. Chairman, in the area of information communication technology within the country, we are enhancing our ICT connectivity through several projects to improve ICT infrastructure, particularly on availability and accessibility. Brunei Darussalam internet penetration rate is currently at 60% and showing an increasing trend annually. Under the ICT Rural Outreach Program, we aim to bridge the digital divide between the rural and urban areas of the country within the next few years. Regionally, Brunei Darussalam welcomes the ASEAN ICT Master Plan 2015 that similarly aims to bridge the digital divide. We believe that ICT is a powerful enabler in fostering integration, connectivity, and innovation within the region. Mr. Chairman and distinguished delegates, we believe the efforts made to strengthen our connectivity at both national and regional level are valuable steps in augmenting inclusive growth and sustainable development. In doing this, we face similar challenges that has been outlined and discussed at length in the Commission reports, such as the need for stronger institutional coordination within and between governments and across sectors. Therefore, we call for more effort to enhance physical and institutional connectivity, more regular exchanges of best practices, and greater diffusion of knowledge on connectivity in the Asia-Pacific region. Finally, we laud the unwavering commitment of the Commission in promoting regional connectivity, integration, and sustainable development. We sincerely hope, with our joint effort and cooperation, the people of Asia-Pacific region will be able to enjoy a shared prosperity in the future we want. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Brunei Darussalam, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Fiji, Mr. Peter Wise, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Strategic Planning, National Development and Statistics, to whom I now give the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for giving me the floor. On behalf of the Fijian delegation, I'd like to congratulate the Prime Minister of Bhutan on his election as chair of this ministerial segment. We also wish to congratulate the Executive Secretary on her visionary policy statement in steering the work of ESCAP and using the post-2015 development agenda as a platform where member states can genuinely work together. We note in particular her commitment that all countries will be given equal opportunity. This is reassuring, as it means that the special needs of the Pacific will be given due consideration in the work of ESCAP. We commend the theme of the 70th Commission session of regional connectivity for shared prosperity, as it truly reflects the inspiration we all hold in finding solutions to challenges we have in common, and thereby leveraging our collective ability to achieve prosperity together. I would like to make some generic observation on the Economic and Social Survey of Asia and the Pacific 2014 report, which was launched by the Executive Secretary on the 6th of August 2014. Mr. Chairman, first, the report advocates the mobilization of domestic resources to raise revenue for national development. In our view, such approach will only work with much bigger economies. It is not practical nor relevant for the Pacific seas, since the capacity of our private sector is limited in scope. Most of the Pacific Island economies are so small, with very narrow economic base, and the mobilization of domestic resources is quite limited. We have to consider other modalities,
that are relevant in the Pacific. A sub-regional arrangement for mobilizing resources may be a better option. In the case of Fiji, we have reduced personal and corporate taxes to encourage investment, in addition to simplification of tax administration. The challenge is to identify a sustainable source of revenue without stifling the development of the private sector. The one-size-fits-all development paradigm has not been effective, and we have to look at innovative and robust ways that will work for small island developing states. We have to consider a balanced approach and pursue modalities that are relevant to our environment. In part 2 of the report, Mr. Chairman, we note with interest the regional strategy on statistical standard for strengthening accountability and for better policy making. Fiji, in cognition of the fact that the availability of timely, reliable, quality baseline data is a prerequisite for informed decision-making across the entire government machinery, including the private sector and civil society. There is no doubt that the timely availability of quality data is critical for making the appropriate policy choices. In recognition of the importance of the availability of timely information, Fiji in the past 2 years embarked on an institutional strengthening program to boost organizational capacity in our National Statistics Office. We are very fortunate to benefit from the technical support that has been provided by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. This arrangement has been assured for the next 5 years through a memorandum of understanding with the Australian Bureau of Statistics on specific areas of technical support. More so, the focus is also to establish Statistical Office as a depository of all data, including environment. To facilitate a more coordinated approach to national sustainable development effort, the government has adopted a homegrown green growth framework last month. The impetus for green growth emanates from the need to ensure the sustainable use of our limited natural resources, reduce our vulnerability to environment risks, and promote social inclusive development. The theme of Fiji's Green Growth Framework is restoring the balance in development that is sustainable for our future. Mr. Chairman, we recognize that all developing countries must be given room or policy space to better determine their priorities based on their specific need, rather than being driven by those that provides them with the necessary financial resources. We are of the view that intervention and priority setting should be country-driven as opposed to being donor-driven. At the same time, there must be a clear demarcation of priorities that need regional solutions against those that are country-specific to maximize the use of resources. We believe that ESCAP can play a more catalytical role to ensure better coordination and synergy. While some progress has been made in our effort to achieve the MDGs, we recognize that concerted effort is needed to achieve all the goals in the time remaining before it expires in 2015. A more coordinated, well-targeted approach is necessary to enable us to achieve MDGs, effectively implement the Rio Plus 20 commitment, and follow a process including effective arrangement in the post-2015 development agenda preparation. In our view, being inclusive and a better coordinated approach will surely bear result and foster ownership as we move forward in the preparation of the 3rd International Conference on Seeds to be held in Samoa next month. Mr. Chairman, as we forge ahead in the formulation of the post-2015 development agenda, we must address the unique vulnerabilities and challenges of LDCs, LLDCs, and seeds. We believe that the theme of regional connectivity for shared prosperity sets the platform to ensure that we all work together for our common good. We therefore look forward to the continuing commitment and effective participation of all stakeholders and genuine partnership with our development partners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Fiji, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Philippines, Her Excellency Madame Jocelyn Patun Kasia, Ambassador Extraordinary and potentially and permanent representatives to ESCAP. To whom I now give the floor.
Your Excellencies, Mr. Chairman, honorable delegates, good afternoon. On behalf of the Philippine delegation, I wish to convey warm greetings to the delegations attending the 70th Commission session of UN ESCAP. Allow me also to extend my heartfelt condolences to the distinguished delegation of China on the loss of lives and property due to the recent strong earthquake and typhoon, and to the distinguished delegation of Vietnam on the damage also caused by Typhoon Ramasun. The Philippine delegation attaches great importance to regional connectivity for shared prosperity, the theme of this session. We believe that connectivity should not only be through physical infrastructure, but also through the sharing of relevant information and technology that could bring about multi-dimensional cooperation to address common concerns. In recognition of this, the Philippine government has undertaken numerous activities and initiatives with the aim of connecting the country with the Asia-Pacific region and its people. Excellencies, honorable delegates, the Philippines has made considerable headway in our maritime connectivity by enhancing our existing facilities that link our hundreds of islands to regional capitals. At the sub-regional level, the Philippines is an active contributor to the BIMP-IAGA that links 4 ASEAN member states. We also intend to further link our archipelago with mainland Asia and thereby generate greater mobility of goods in the Asia-Pacific region. In order to achieve these ends, we affirm our commitment to freedom of navigation and the rule of law. In the area of connectivity, we improve the aviation industry by addressing safety concerns and increasing flights to and from the Philippines. This will boost the country's efforts to enhance the connectivity of our archipelagic country, which is linked only by water and air to its neighbors. Greater air connectivity will increase people-to-people exchanges, tourism, trade, and investments that contribute to the dynamic development of our economy. Our land connectivity, the Philippine national budget for infrastructure has doubled during the 2011 to 2014 period, in recognition of the significant contribution of infrastructure to economic development. More than 12,000 kilometers of national roads were widened, repaired, and constructed. Public-private partnership projects for the construction of airport, passenger terminals, highways, bridges, dikes, and water facilities are being built. On information communication technology, or ICT, the Philippines continues to collaborate on capacity building with the Asia-Pacific Center for Information and Communication Technology. In partnership with the private sector, our Information Communication Technology Office and the National Telecommunication Commission are pilot testing TV white space technology. The project aims to use TV white space technology as a tool to spread information that would increase productivity. By hosting the World Economic Forum for East Asia 2014 in May this year, the Philippines provided a venue for connecting the various business sectors in Asia. In 2015, We look forward to contributing more to connect our region with the rest of the world through our hosting of the APEC Summit. Excellencies, honorable delegates, I am pleased to note that pursuant to the Philippines-sponsored Commission resolution on 6915 on implementing the outcome of the high-level meeting on the improvement of civil registration and vital statistics in Asia and the Pacific, the first ever CRVS ministerial conference in our region will take place in November this year. The Philippines strongly believes that the issue of civil registration is fundamentally linked to a range of rights, the protections of which are crucial for the prosperity of our people and our region. The Philippine government is keenly aware that our region is also connected by numerous disasters that beset many of our countries. Typhoon Haiyan showed how relevant and timely sharing of information and technology could mitigate the effects of disasters. We thank all countries, international institutions, and organizations for their continued support for the rehabilitation of those affected by that climate change-induced phenomena. We call on all ESCAP member states and the ESCAP Secretariat to support regional efforts to build resilience to and mitigate the risks of natural disasters, and develop a basic range of disaster-related statistics. We hope that through these efforts, gains that have been achieved could be safeguarded and sustained. Thank you, and mabuhay.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Philippines, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Pakistan, His Excellency Mr. Sohail Khan, Ambassador Extraordinary, potentially and permanent representative to ESCAP. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, distinguished representatives and delegates of member states, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great honor for me to submit my country's statement before this August gathering for the 70th session of the Commission. Let me, from the very outset, recognize the tall level of efforts and labor put in by the UNESCAP officials and staff to make this event a harbinger of change in the post-2015 development agenda and for this region. Let me also register the unrelenting work of the Secretariat here to pursue and convince all member states in weaving a consensus on a wide tapestry of actions to achieve the goal of sustainable development through the processes of connectivity and integration. And of course, I would like to specially commend the enlightened leadership of the new Executive Secretary, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, whose hard work, insightful experience, and invaluable contributions and initiatives have been the source of true inspiration to this Commission. I also like to welcome the election of the new Chairman of the Commission, His Excellency the Prime Minister of the Royal Kingdom of Bhutan, and I wish him only success and to the achievements of the goals of 2015 Development Agenda under his able leadership. Last but not least, I also wish to appreciate all support extended by the Government of Thailand in hosting the event of such a magnitude. Ladies and gentlemen, we all concurred that upward growth and improved governance are the cardinal tools to build a strong trajectory. However, we have to understand that to achieve extraordinary from ordinary, we are bound to face various issues and challenges to straddle theory and application. One such challenge of the current epoch is prevalence of syndrome of inequality. This inequality syndrome is spreading like an epidemic from one human need to another, ultimately germinating into a wide scale of poverty with lesser options for us for its eradication. As a consequence, we see continued rise in transnational crime, healthcare issues, and environmental problems. The vulnerable countries are getting more frustrated in search of means to provide basic access to connectivity and convincing market growth. In parallel, we are also witnessing the process of constructive destruction when not all new institutions have the capacity to cope with fresh supply and demand ratio. Similarly, we see this inequality syndrome between the member states in terms of to move upward on the development ladder. We may be exposed to contrasting perspectives on important drivers of development, such as transfer of technology, withdrawal from certain commitment by strong players, and reluctance to mobilize required resources for a promise towards a shared prosperity. Let me now move to the optimistic side, where the current economic dynamics are hallmark of the Asia-Pacific region. It is driven largely by trade, investment, and globalized linkages. This region has the capacity to transform challenges into opportunities. It offers more emerging markets and huge potential in terms of both human capital and productivity to support the goal of sustainable development. The theme of this session is connectivity for shared prosperity, that commensurate well with the regional dynamics and pressing social economic imperatives. ESCAP has provided a timely springboard to all member states to work out a roadmap of strategic activities along with an oversight mechanism to measure our concerted progress and connectivity. This is to start within 4 areas of trade, transport, energy, and people-to-people contact. However, our 4-pronged approach is not restricted but encompasses other possible areas of cooperation too. The future prosperity and stability has to be protected against natural and environmental calamities. All this have to be proactive under the covenant of the Bangkok Declaration adopted last year for regional economic cooperation, integration, and sustainable development. This can act as a ferment for the way forward. I'm sure that the declaration will continue to make an impression on this region, and ESCAP expertise will ensure its translation into equitable growth. We have to evolve national, regional, and global tracks to fight out common challenges and threats. This may entail some sort of relationship with important international entities to acquire financial, technical, and other inputs from outside the region. Distinguished guests, as you know, Pakistan has been facing some internal challenges, very serious internal challenges of extremism and energy deficit and infrastructure development. All this has put a lot of pressure on the financial burden, a big financial burden on Pakistan. So we are going through a difficult phase, but our government, which was elected last year, is doing a great job, making a lot of strides to meet the challenges, and we have been able to take commitments and make a move forward, and we are cooperating with our neighboring states like with China on the energy, and we are hopefully within 3 to 4 years we will be able to overcome our deficit. Also, we are working with other neighboring countries to in terms of connectivity to provide necessary infrastructure to our neighboring countries, especially Afghanistan, to overcome its development challenges. So we have a lot of things before us, and we are working on those according to our capacities. But of course, we are all looking forward to work together, as I mentioned early in the day, that we need to work on the same page as a family. Pakistan has proposed to this eminent regional UN forum adoption of 2 resolutions in this session titled as Strengthening Regional Cooperation and Capacity for Enhanced Trade and Investment in Support of Sustainable Development, and secondly on enhancing youth participation in sustainable development, besides co-sponsoring resolutions on disaster risk reduction in the Asia-Pacific region, and also I'm going to support 2 more resolutions sponsored by Indonesia and China, China, and Republic of Korea. So The sole aim lies to unleash the inherent potential to achieve the common task corresponding to toolkit available for the cause. I wish to thank all member states here for their vigorous participation, positive understanding, and cooperative approach in adopting these resolutions, which, along with other resolutions, would facilitate addressing some of the pressing challenges facing the region. Distinguished delegates, we need greater cooperation and sincere desire to establish bridges to make this region a prosperous and premier geography for its inhabitants. This can be achievable under a flag of well-integrated web of substantial activities built on trade, transport, and energy corridors, and on many other promising avenues. After all, we are all here today to push our individual sense of responsibility to advance common good and betterment for the people of Asia and the Pacific region. We wish all member states of this regional forum a great success and progress in their individual and joint endeavors towards the achievement of post-2015 development agenda. I thank you for the attention.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Pakistan, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Nepal, Dr. Somral Supeti, Member Secretary, National Planning Commission, to whom I now give the floor.
Mr. Chairperson, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, on behalf of Nepalese delegation and on my own, I would like to extend congratulations to you, Mr. Chairperson, and other members of the Bureau on Elections, to the respective chairs in the 70th session of ESCAP. I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to the Royal Thai government for their warm hospitality extended to us. Let me also take this opportunity to express our deep appreciation to the Executive Secretary of ESCAP and our team in the Secretariat for the excellent arrangements. Mr. Chairperson, the global economy is reviving gradually in recent years, and we expect that the economy of the developing countries in the Asia-Pacific region will also move towards recovery and betterment. Almost all the least developed and landlocked developing countries in the region are facing the problems of poverty, unemployment, inequality, and social inclusion. The increase in food and petroleum products prices has created additional problems sustaining the growth and macroeconomic management. The efforts made by these countries to overcome the problems have not been enough. Moreover, climate change has become a global risk, and it has made a serious impact on development efforts. As a result, glaciers in the Himalayas have become prone to melt down, posing a serious threat to the livelihood and ecology of entire Himalayas and surrounding region. There is an urgent need for collective action to mitigate the impact of this common risk, and we urge that the entire ESCAP region must stand together to tackle this common threat and provide special attention to the mountain countries to address the vulnerability of climate change. The LDCs are facing constant challenges in trade, transit, and socio-economic development due to lack of territorial access to the sea, remoteness and isolation from the world markets, and high transit cost. Nepal, also being a LLDC, has been facing the additional challenges. Landlocked situation and mountain terrains have made transportation cost very high. It is necessary that LLDCs should be provided with greater market access for their products, support for the transfer of appropriate technology to enhance their productive capacity and competitiveness, as well as structural transformation. The regional inclusiveness for sustainable development is vital to address these problems. Therefore, the theme topic for this session on regional connectivity for shared prosperity is very relevant. Nepal is currently implementing 13th periodic plan with the ambitious vision of graduating Nepal from LDC status by 2022. It has set goals for reducing people living below the poverty line from the current 23.8% to the 18%, increasing the annual average economic growth rate to 6%, maintaining the population growth rate at 1.35%, and raising the life expectancy to 71 years. In meeting these goals, the current plan would also ensure the achievements of MDGs and addresses the issues of sustainable development, human rights, climate change, and other internationally agreed goals. Nepal has adopted inclusive growth and sustainable development approaches focusing on development of physical infrastructure, increasing access to social services, the utility and quality of those services, enhancing good governance, people's empowerment, and climate change resilience development approaches. I take this opportunity to share that Nepal has been successfully implementing National Adaptation Program of Action, NAPA, and Local Adaptation Plan of Action, LAPA, to mitigate and adapt climate change. Mr. Chairperson, Nepalese economy has been growing gradually in recent years, despite several challenges in many fronts. The Nepalese economy is estimated to grow by 5.2% in fiscal year 2013-14 compared to 3.5% in the previous year. The major contributing sectors are agriculture, social sector, and tourism. The structure of Nepalese economy has also been changing with gradual decrease in share of agriculture sector compared to non-agriculture sector. Nepal has made significant progress in achieving its MDGs and has been appreciated internationally. The majorities of health-related MDGs has already been achieved or are on track to being achieved. The targets related to poverty and hunger, universal primary education, gender equality, and women's empowerment are also likely to be achieved by 2015. And though the targets concerning environmental sustainability and global partnership are unlikely to be achieved in totality. Hence, Nepal should focus on sustainability and MDGs achievement and continuation of its unfinished agenda in the years to come. Nepal is actively involved in the WTO, BIMSTEC, and SAFTA to increase its international trades. However, on the one hand, increase in domestic demand and increase in food and oil prices has increased the import shares, and on the other hand, the exports has been declining after the abolition of the multi-fiber agreement regime and attaining membership of WTO. These developments have led to increase in merchandise trade deficit and negatively impacted on current account. Therefore, it indicates a need for augmenting production base and widening and expanding unrestricted access to the world markets. Mr. Chairperson, it is necessary to achieve higher and sustainable economic growth for upgrading the country from LDC status. Agriculture production has been playing a vital role in Nepal's economic growth. Agriculture sector is affected by climate conditions, resulting in the fluctuation of GDP, thereby affecting overall economic growth. Further investment in industrial sectors require more conducive investment environment by developing necessary social, economic, and physical infrastructure. Nepal needs to create more employment opportunities to utilize growing youth force in the labor market and take benefit of population dividend. It will help reduce the poverty intensity and ultimately the income gap. It is also necessary to provide access to social development to all marginalized groups in the country. Mr. Chairpersons, distinguished delegates, it is a matter of appreciation that UN ESCAP has been contributing significantly in socio-economic progress in this region. It had organized a number of high-level policy dialogues in Nepal over the past years, especially on inclusive development, graduation strategy from LDC status, and MDGs consistent macroeconomic modeling. Nepal would like to request UN ESCAP to continue these activities and provide technical support in the areas of sustainable and inclusive transport development, statistical reforms, productive capacity analysis, and second-generation economic reform. We are confident that the UN ESCAP will play a more active and effective role in years ahead in reducing poverty, achieving international agreed goals, and promoting regional cooperation in this region. It would be fruitful if we could develop a common framework with differentiated responsibilities to achieve our regional goals. Finally, on behalf of my delegation and on my own, I would like to thank UN ESCAP Secretariat for inviting us to attend this 17th session of Commission. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Nepal, for your statement. Next speaker is the distinguished delegate from Australia, Mr. Jonathan Kerner, Minister and Permanent Representative to ESCAP. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairperson, Ministers and distinguished colleagues, Australia extends its gratitude both to Thailand for hosting this 70th session of the Commission and also to the ESCAP Secretariat under Dr. Shamshad Akhtar's leadership for the quality of its ongoing support to Member States. Australia welcomes the theme for this year's Commission. It very usefully focuses our attention on just how important enhanced connectivity is in facilitating economic growth and development. Consistent with this, Australia's new aid policy, which was launched in May this year, emphasises the importance of enhancing regional connectivity. Our new policy makes clear that as part of our overall commitment to supporting economic growth and poverty alleviation, Australia will continue to invest in the infrastructure needed to improve regional connectivity, including by facilitating private investment and utilising international forums such as APEC and the G20 and our work with ASEAN partners to address systemic barriers to investment in infrastructure and to better integrate financial markets. I'll touch now briefly on the 4 critical areas for connectivity that are outlined in ESCAP's useful thematic paper. Australia agrees that building trade and transport, information and communications technology and energy connectivity are core priorities for the region. I note the call in the discussions that we've heard recently, including from the Honourable Minister from the Solomon Islands this afternoon, to move beyond just rhetoric and into concrete action. Australia agrees, and our commitment to concrete action is reflected in our new aid policy, which includes a target to double aid for trade investments, including on economic infrastructure, by 2020. Australia will also continue to invest heavily in both hard and soft infrastructure in our region. For example, on the physical infrastructure side, I was interested to hear yesterday in the national statement from Lao PDR reference to the utility of the various friendship bridges that have been built across the Mekong. And it reminded me of the length of time that Australia has been contributing to better connectivity in our region, because it was Australia that built the first Thai-Lao friendship bridge. In fact, this year we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the opening of that bridge in 1994. And our contributions are continuing, for example, through our investments in the Southern Coastal Corridor projects in Cambodia and Vietnam, and the Central Mekong Delta Transport Connectivity Project. But our work with partners in the region has not been limited to physical infrastructure projects. It's also extended to enhancing the soft infrastructure. On telecommunications reform, for example, we have helped to open and regulate competition, increasing private sector participation, reducing costs, and improving services in Fiji, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Timor-Leste and Vanuatu. And we've also funded a number of energy projects, for example, promoting rural electrification in Asia and the Pacific. We value the bilateral partnerships that have made this work possible. And in addition to that bilateral work, we're also working through regional institutions. As a long-standing partner to ASEAN, in fact ASEAN's first dialogue partner, we are working actively to support its objective of achieving an ASEAN economic community by the end of 2015. We recognise ASEAN's very significant achievements to date in advancing economic integration. And it's integration like this which has helped ASEAN economies grow at twice the global rate over the past 30 years. And Australia has been pleased to support these integration efforts, including through initiatives under our ASEAN-Australia Development Cooperation Program. And we're also pleased of the contribution that we've made together to regional economic integration through our high-quality free trade agreement with ASEAN, and as part of our collective efforts to advance such integration to take the next step, we're actively participating in the ASEAN-led negotiations for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. As we heard during the G20 event on Wednesday, Australia is the chair of this year's G20, and part of our agenda is focused on three main themes. First, making the global economy more resilient to future shocks. Second, strengthening global institutions to make sure they're fit for purpose in the 21st century economy. Third, promoting growth and employment by empowering the private sector, including through facilitating investment to address the $70 trillion global infrastructure gap that we've heard quite a lot of today and yesterday. Australia is also actively supporting the people-to-people connectivity, which is the fourth dimension noted in ESCAP's thematic paper. Australia is the fourth largest host for international students globally, and we're contributing to the development of people-to-people links through tertiary education, private sector linkages, and improving international labour mobility and conditions. In particular, our new government, which was elected in September last year, has developed a signature new policy called the New Colombo Plan, in which it will invest $100 million over the next 5 years. And this New Colombo Plan will deepen the connections between our young people and their peers throughout the region by supporting Australian undergraduate students to come into the region to study and undertake internships in more than 30 countries in the Indo-Pacific. It will also encourage the linkages between Australian universities and their counterpart institutions in the Asia-Pacific. Again, on people-to-people links, we're actively working on regional labour migration, including, for example, through Australia's Pacific-focused seasonal worker program. I'll just touch briefly now on the Asia-Pacific, on our region's role in shaping an effective post-2015 development agenda. I'd like to acknowledge the very significant contributions being made by the Asia-Pacific to shaping this post-2015 agenda. In our view, a post-2015 agenda should strengthen the drivers of economic growth, support trade, support market access, engage the vital role of the private sector in order to promote investment, including in infrastructure, including in energy, and to meet other development priorities. Australia stands ready to finalise the design of the new framework in 2015 and to work with ESCAP and other key partners in the Asia-Pacific in this process. As part of this, we noted with interest during this morning's session on accountability for the post-2015 agenda, on the call by the Honourable Minister from Mongolia for enhanced statistical capacity to facilitate this process of monitoring and evaluating the SDGs. Australia provides strong support to the ESCAP Committee on Statistics and also, as we've just heard from Fiji, to countries in the region, with the aim of ensuring that all countries in the region have the capacity to produce a core set of economic, population, social and environmental statistics by 2020. In conclusion, as others have noted, with some 743 million people still living in extreme poverty in the Asia-Pacific, the challenges of sharing prosperity across the region remain considerable. This is why our shared commitment to supporting connectivity to help drive sustainable economic growth and reduce poverty is so important. Australia looks forward to continuing to work with fellow member states, including through ESCAP, to increase prosperity and opportunity for all our peoples in the Asia-Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Australia, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Turkey, Mr. Ayakta Kamil Noen. Sorry, there's a slight amendment here. Armenia. Right. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Armenia, His Excellency Armen Sasien, Ambassador of Armenia to China, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Armenia. Thank you. You have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would first of all like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Shamshat Akhtar, the Executive Secretary, and the Secretariat of the UN ESCAP for excellent organization of the 17th session of the Commission, and to wish productive work to all of us. Mr. Chairman, as we have assembled here at this important international gathering, aiming at the further advancement of our jointly defined strategic and imperative economic and social goals in the Asia-Pacific region, the world hasn't become a safer place. On the contrary, it's currently being more fiercely devastated by conflicts and violence in different regions, including ours. We witness a snowballing state of turmoil and escalating tension which hinder and obstruct the achievements of our common goals, as only lasting peace, stability, and sustainable development can be the fertile soil where the seeds of our joint social and economic initiatives and endeavors may sprout. This means that the international community has to make even greater strides towards the shaping of a cohesive and all-encompassing agenda to more effectively address and confront the multifaceted political, social, and economic challenges we face in our troubled times. Hence, in view of the above complications on regional and global levels, we do need to strongly reaffirm our commitment while pursuing the Millennium Development Goals, as well as those set by the Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. The tentacles of the world economic and financial crisis still distract us from the charted path. However, economic and political calamities we face and suffer today once again make clear for all of us, that no country can achieve in isolation the MDGs in the world of growing interdependence and interconnectedness. We remain strongly convinced that international and regional cooperation is essential for building peaceful, sustainable, and prosperous societies. Mr. Chairman, despite the problems and challenges that Armenia faces today, my government keeps seeking effective ways for ensuring better life quality for its citizens. Especially the first wave of reforms in Armenia has laid solid foundation for the package of the second generation of improvement targeted at the increasing of the country's competitiveness and the modernization of the economy, accentuating the shift towards a knowledge-based economy. The IT sector of the Armenian economy can serve as a vivid example of what has been said. The development of information technology sector in Armenia has always been the focus of Armenia's government. In 2008, we adopted information technology sector development strategy. The main vision behind the strategy was to create the sustainable information society with advanced ICT infrastructure, high-level computer literacy, high level of computer saturation and internet access, extended use of e-services and e-governance systems, expansion of the local IT market with an increasing opportunities to reach out the regional and international markets. The greater part of our strategic goals in this field have been successfully achieved as of today, while others are underway, with the total number of operating companies in Armenia's IT sector being 380 and qualified software workforce of 10,740. The turnover of IT industry is $380 million annually and continues to increase, demonstrating an average growth of 22.8% per year. Being a landlocked country and having access to the sea only in the north and in the south through Georgia and Iran, Armenia also places utmost importance on the development of transport infrastructures. The North-South Road Corridor Investment Program is among our major infrastructure priorities. The project, with an estimate cost of $1.5 billion, aims at connecting the southern border of the country with its northern point by means of 556-kilometer long highway. The construction of this strategically important highway is designed to ensure traffic from Armenia's border with Iran to our border with Georgia and up to Black Sea ports. For the implementation of the project, we have signed contract with the Asian Development Bank and European Investment Bank, and we are negotiating also with the EBRD to fully complete the project in 2019. Mr. Chairman, in the end, I once again congratulate all of us on the occasion of the UN ESCAP 17th session and to wish successful work to all delegations and participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Armenia, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Marshall Islands, Her Excellency Madeleine E. Kapua, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Republic of Marshall Islands to ESCAP. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone, ESCAP family. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Executive Secretary, ladies and gentlemen. The Republic of the Marshall Islands welcomes the 70th meeting of ESCAP and its focused discussions on both boosting regional connectivity as well as the UN post-2015 development agenda. Small island states are nearly a third of ESCAP membership and almost a quarter of the UN membership. For too long, we have been lumped into larger pools in the wider Asia-Pacific region and in the wider world without due regard for our unique structural and geographic challenges. In 3 weeks' time, UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon will join leaders and ministers from around the world in Apia, Samoa, for the 3rd Global Conference on Small Island States. Today and this year, as the year of the SIDS, we are coming into our own. While we may be dismayed that our negotiation towards an outcome roadmap were marked by larger political agendas not of our making, when you come to Samoa, please hear our voices and see firsthand our challenges and opportunities in the Pacific SIDS. The Marshall Islands is particularly pleased to see ESCAP recent report on sustainable management on oceans and seas for sustainable development and poverty eradication in Pacific small island developing states. We have the ability to use our own resources to contribute to the world economy and global food security. And at the same time, we can also rapidly transform our own economies and move core indicators, and we will do these with sustainability at heart. Our tuna industry is the largest in the world to have achieved sustainability certification, but we cannot do so alone. We need to realize active and well-targeted partnerships with the international community to boost our own capacity for effective investment and growth. We need political will of distant nations to be our active partners. It is my hope and expectation that recent positive collaboration, including our ESCAP ministerial outcome on economic connections within Asia, does not overlook this critical opportunity. Further, the Pacific Small Island Developing State have stood strong for a standalone SDG goal on oceans. Oceans are a critical resource not only for the Pacific, but for the wider Asia region and indeed the world. We are an active member of ESCAP with a call to build stronger bridges between the unique Pacific Island and the wider Asia continent, enhance cooperation, including through the South-South cooperation and partnership investment. We can get and offer as much. However, we need more specific attention provided not only as a lip service, but in international programs that are well structured for small island states. While there are positive successes, there are also gaps in effective delivery that seem to stretch as long as many miles between Suva and Bangkok, and even longer to my own home capital of Majuro in the Marshall Islands. Too often we have been told that we are too far away, too small, and too many of us. The end result today is that with such little interaction with multilateral assistance and institutions, that we at times are ill prepared to capture valuable opportunities, and the rest of the world move on without us on board. The UNSG is boarding the plane to Samoa, and our leaders will be asking him directly why, how, and where do we work together with the international system. Our work in the wider Asia region and ESCAP setting must focus more closely on our unique character and not simply lumping us, the Pacific, in a larger pool by circumstances, not logic. Finally, as global community moves forward to a 2015 Paris Protocol on climate change, it is critical that everyone comes forward with strong action which reflects most common commitment, also our unique national differences. As a low-lying state with no iron crown, the very survival of the Marshall Islands depends on it. The Marshall Islands will join the other next March, including some of the largest powers in the Asia-Pacific region, in announcing a nationally determined contribution on climate change. But until we realize closer and more effective partnership with the international partnership system, whether on climate change or wider sustainable development efforts, we will continue to struggle to close the gap between the local results and the international intention. Thank you very much, Chair, and congratulations. But before I leave the podium, I would like to extend the Marshall Island sincere gratitude to the ESCAP, to the outgoing Nolene, and also to welcome and to thank the INU and the Secretary. And I also would like to recognize and really thank our own ESCAP arm in the Pacific that has really been trying to make sure that the Pacific is still very much engaged in the Bangkok engagement. Mr. Joseph Mayafa and his small team, thank you so very much for having me here all the way from New York, and I stand ready to support the region as we all work together to find common ground where we can all find solutions. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Marshall Islands, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegates of Vanuatu, His Excellency Sato Kilman, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperations and External Trade. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure in joining my other distinguished delegates to congratulate you in taking up the chairmanship of the 70th session of the Commission. We also welcome the 70th session of ESCAP's theme, in regional connectivity for shared prosperity, and acknowledge that this theme could not have come at a better time as we all embark on national, regional, and international initiatives of connectivity in key specific sectors to ensure we reap the fruits of prosperity for our people's livelihood and our future development sustainability. Vanuatu, an archipelago of some scattered 83 islands, has experienced the geographic isolations between villages, islands, and nations. Without any form of connectivity development, our peoples face the challenges of ever rarely receiving any of the basic needs to live happy and peaceful lives. We are all experts on the challenges we individual countries and regions are facing. We all know and have continued to speak out to the world on how we as small Pacific Island developing states and least developed countries are vulnerable and face challenges in all spectrum of life. Yet, we need to identify in our own ways and mechanisms to harness the existing gaps. It is only recently that Vanuatu is able to step up and embark on a number of initiatives for connectivity in order to link up with regional initiatives. This includes 1. Launching of Vanuatu's national ICT policy, cybersecurity policy, and universal access policy in May 2014. It is envisaged that this policy sets out government's commitment to maximize contribution, efficiency, and effectiveness of ICT in achieving our vision for a just, educated, healthy, and wealthy Vanuatu. Access to ICT is now radically expanded and will transform government services and public administration to the socio-economic development of our country. The policy will enhance relevance of ICTs for the Vanuatu population by promoting availability of local relevant content, as well as our ability to develop and utilize ICTs through capacity building programs, as well as sector coordination and collaboration. 2. Vanuatu's first international submarine fiber optic cable system linking Vanuatu to Fiji was launched earlier in the year January 2014. The milestone cable project links Vanuatu directly into the high-capacity Southern Cross cable between Sydney and the United States. This improved speedy connection has seen rapid and explosive increase in the expansion of technological usage. Work is now underway for a 3,000-kilometer cable system to link Vanuatu to Solomons and Papua New Guinea. 3. Increased use of land access, increased use of and access to mobile telecommunications has seen almost 90% coverage in comparison to the last 10 years with less than 50% coverage. 4. The Vanuatu Inter-Island Shipping Support Project to be implemented from 2012 to 2016 from a joint partnership between New Zealand, the Asian Development Bank, and the government, to which I would like to express our gratitude. The said project will improve port facilities and expand much-needed shipping services to remote islands of our archipelago. 5. Vanuatu's hydrographic survey, currently underway, to ensure connectivity of key rural wharfs in order to open up access to the thriving cruise tourism that Vanuatu is enjoying. 6. In April 2014, we also launched our much anticipated National Energy Roadmap 2013 to 2020 with a vision to energize Vanuatu's growth and development through the provision of a secure, affordable, widely accessible, high quality, and clean energy services. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, whilst we acknowledge our slow advancement in several areas, Vanuatu realizes much work is needed to improve progress in achieving the Millennium Development Goals. Though access and connectivity have improved, Vanuatu has mixed results for MDGs 1, 2, 3, and 5, and off track on MDG 7 and 8. Vanuatu's working age population continues to grow at a faster rate than the growth in total employment, whilst unemployment is rising and is of much concern. Malnutrition and lack of knowledge of the importance of healthy eating for young children will continue to worsen in contributing to the non-communicable diseases. We call on ESCAP, other UN institutions and development partners to scale up its efforts in assisting countries in the region that are lagging behind the MDGs, whilst also bearing in mind that this unfinished business should and must be taken on board when developing the post-2015 development agenda. On least developed country, excellencies and distinguished delegates, Vanuatu was considered eligible for graduation in 2006 and 2009. Conversely, Vanuatu opted to maintain the status quo after considerable differing points of view. In 2012, we revealed that we continue to be susceptible to extreme external economic shocks, distance, and dependent on external markets, and were one of the most disaster-prone countries. Last year, at the 69th Commission session, we stated that Vanuatu continues to put out a strong case to delay its graduation. However, in November 2013, the General Assembly endorsed the recommendation of the Committee for Development Policy to graduate Vanuatu and provided on an exceptional basis an additional preparatory period of 1 year. With Vanuatu graduating in the next 4 years, Vanuatu is seeking the continued support of the UN ESCAP, its other UN agencies, and development partners to assist without transition into 2017, taking into account the loss of special and differential treatment we access as an LDC. Macroeconomic policy and inclusive development. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Vanuatu continues to slowly recuperate and adapt towards the ongoing global economic crisis. Our economic expansion strengthened in the first half of 2014, with growth rising to 3.7% after a soft patch that began in late 2010. Annual real GDP growth is expected to increase to 4.3% in 2015. Investments are also likely to pick up, reflecting announced government plans of investment in infrastructure projects. With this, the country needs to remain on a progressive growth path, and further economic reform and sound fiscal management is very significant. Social stability underlies Vanuatu's steady advancement, though a tradition of political instability exists. However, fundamentally, underlying social stability in Vanuatu and its ability to make transition of power peacefully have helped lay the foundation for growth, including by enhancing the country's reputation in tourism and by promoting its prospect for inclusion in seasonal workers program. Vanuatu's future is not assured. All small island economies are volatile and easily destabilized. We have a long way to go whilst facing a wide range of reform challenges. These include improving health and education indicators, promoting further structural reform, reducing corruption, maintaining social stability, ensuring law and order, and promoting equity. Failure to implement these structural reforms will put us on an unsustainable path for development. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, to assist with the reforms Vanuatu has embarked on, the development of its National Sustainable Development Strategy 2016-2030, which highlights the stewardship of the environment and culture as integral to the livelihoods of our people. This process will draw from our 2011-2012 piloted alternative indicators of well-being, indicators that will be integrated into our national framework, as well as improving our national development vision and better tracking of our progress. In addition, Vanuatu has also commenced the development of its national oceans policy, as well as our national environment policy, in line with the strong call for the inclusion of a standalone goal on oceans, blue carbon initiative, green growth, and marine spatial mapping. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, in conclusion, in order to overcome our challenges and vulnerabilities, it is imperative that we coordinate, monitor, and support each other in an accountable process to attain an effective, efficient, and improved regional connectivity for shared prosperity for our Asia-Pacific region. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Vanuatu, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegates of Islamic Republic of Iran, His Excellency Mr. Hossein Kamalian, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary and Permanent Representative to ESCAP. The floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Chairman, allow me at the outset to congratulate you and other members of the Bureau for your election. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation to Her Excellency Dr. Shamshad Akhtar and her colleagues in the ESCAP Secretariat for excellent preparation and documentation for the 70th annual session of ESCAP Commission. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the Asia and the Pacific region continues to be the engine of growth in the global economy, and the trade-led expansion continues to contribute to the regional economic growth and development. Nonetheless, the strategy of export-led growth and overdependence on export to the markets of developed and industrial countries is coming under increasing pressure from protectionist measures across the globe. The subdued economic growth and continued weakness in major export destinations are holding the whole region from realization of its enormous potentials in various economic fields. All countries in the region, through various policy and stimulus package, fiscal and monetary policies, are striving to revive economic growth and social development. Addressing such challenges in an unpredictable international economic system needs new and innovative strategies at the national and regional level. The existing complementarities and diversity in economies at the regional levels can create ample opportunities for boosting trade and investment and economic cooperation and integration at the regional level, supplementing the benefits derived from trade with major industrial economies and regions outside our continent. Such cooperation can create new markets at the regional level that would benefit all countries. This approach can also help to stabilize and increase economic growth and enhance poverty eradication at the region. To enhance such cooperation at the regional level, we should address the infrastructural bottlenecks and constraints that facilitate trade and investment across the region. Mr. Chairman, to address these constraints and facilitate regional integration, a package of interlinked policies that could reinforce each other and increase synergies among themselves is necessary to promote connectivity in various fields at the regional level. We need to strengthen regional institutions and even establish new ones to create and enhance number of key regional networks and infrastructures, namely connectivity in the areas of trade and transport, information and communication technologies, energy, as well as people-to-people connectivity. The report of ESCAP Secretariat has provided very good and reasonable arguments why we need regional connectivity in these fields, and I will focus on what the Islamic Republic of Iran can offer to facilitate and strengthen these connectivities. In the field of transit, transport, and trade facilitation, the Islamic Republic of Iran has signed more than 120 bilateral and multilateral agreements in all transport modes and has acceded to more than 10 regional multilateral agreements. We are witnessing remarkable growth in transit of goods and commodities within the framework of targeted transit programs, and it is envisaged to increase the transit share to the volume of 50 million tons per year within National 5-year Plan. Iran has undertaken remarkable actions for completing rail missing links with the neighboring countries in the ESCAP region, as well as expansion of Trans-Asian Railway network in its territory. Furthermore, Islamic Republic of Iran has taken fundamental and strategic steps to facilitate trade and transport, including through development of a strategic document of customs of Iran to realize the 20-year vision plan, implementation of new custom law, and establishing of common gates between the customs of Islamic Republic of Iran and neighboring countries. In the field of energy, the Islamic Republic of Iran is exporting oil and gas to many Asian countries, including through the pipelines. There are also plans for building such connectivity, particularly through gas pipeline to South and West Asia as well. The Islamic Republic of Iran has also connected its power grids to most of neighboring countries for exchanging power. Establishing a committee on energy issues in ESCAP could contribute to the further analytical and normative work of ESCAP in the field of energy and facilitate the achievement of the objective of strengthening of regional cooperation and establishing relevant arrangements and networks on energy at the region, leading to reaching further intergovernmental agreements in the field of energy. Mr. Chairman, last but not least, the major challenges before all of us is how to finance the infrastructural projects to address the gaps and missing links critical for seamless connectivity across the region. It is clear that we need financial cooperation at the regional level to create new financial institutions and mechanisms for addressing the major resource gap for building necessary infrastructure. Islamic Republic of Iran, as follow-up to the resolution 69/4 of the ESCAP Commission on the implementation of Tehran Declaration on Public-Private Partnership for Infrastructure Development in Asia and Pacific, strongly support the establishment of the Asian Investment Bank for Infrastructure Development, which was recommended in that declaration. The Asian Investment Bank can mobilize a large sum of public and private reserve and saving in Asia for constructing necessary infrastructure for enhancing connectivity in various fields across Asia and Pacific region. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Islamic Republic of Iran, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of Papua New Guinea, His Excellency Mr. Veali Vangi, High Commissioner of Papua New Guinea to Malaysia, Permanent Representative to ESCAP. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, Ministers, Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. At the outset, let me join the previous speakers and express my delegation's gratitude and appreciation to the Government of Thailand and the ESCAP Secretariat for the courtesies accorded to us since our arrival in Bangkok. Let me also take this opportunity to convey our congratulations to the Prime Minister of Bhutan on his election as the chairperson of the 70th session. We are confident that under his able leadership, supported by the Executive Secretary and the team, we will make decisions on all the issues on our agenda for the betterment of our people in the Asia-Pacific region. Chairperson, over the years we have made progress in strengthening and enhancing efforts towards regional economic integration in our region. So the 70th session theme, Regional Connectivity for Shared Prosperity, provides a region-wide platform for us to discuss and explore opportunities to meet the challenges of globalization, regional integration, and cooperation, including climate change and sustainable development, as well as the implementation of our Millennium Development Goals, and of course the UN Post-15 Development Agenda. The interactions we have had in the past few days relating to the theme of this session is a step forward as we search for ways and means to further enhance closer cooperation for a betterment and sustainable future for us today and for our generations to come. It is in this context, Chairperson, that we commend the Undersecretary General and the team for the excellent work they have done on the study to find mutually pragmatic ways for us to further enhance regional cooperation through economic integration. We note from the study report that there are many complementarities arising from the region's diversity, and so as many underexploited opportunities for mutual benefit towards integration. The findings points to the direction that the regional integration can also assist in making regional development more balanced. We are pleased to know from the study that cooperation through economic integration can also help region address shared vulnerabilities and risk, and hence contribute to exercising its influence in global economic governance. Papua New Guinea therefore supports the recommended four-pronged approach with the long-term vision of building an Asia-Pacific economic community. As the way forward, it would require a comprehensive institutional architecture to achieve this goal. In this way, we can begin consolidation and harness the potential of regional economic integration for the betterment of our countries and the people. Excellencies, in the last few days, we have had many views of our distinguished leaders and experts on the key challenges that needed to be addressed in achieving inclusive and sustainable economic and social development in our region. Our leaders have also recognized that it is imperative and necessary that we must have regional economic integration. We believe that it is time that we make a commitment to work together to begin our journey towards economic integration for an inclusive and sustainable development in the region. Chairperson, having said that, let me highlight some of the issues pertinent to regional economic cooperation from the perspective of my country. Since 2005, we have enjoyed strong economic growth in GDP due to windfall revenue gains from the mineral and petroleum sectors, and of course the significant investment that investors has made in the development of the liquefied natural gas project that have had positive spillover effects on the economy, and this is projected to continue. The political stability in our country, as provided by the successive government, has also contributed to the growth. Today, the challenge is for the government to translate these revenues gains into pragmatic results to improve the lives of our people. Excellencies, on the Millennium Goals, since adopting the UN Millennium Declaration, we have developed the long-term development strategy in Vision 2050, which sets the overarching goal of achieving improved human development. The introduction of PNG Strategic Plan 2010 to 2020, supported by the Action-Oriented Medium-Term Development Plan 2011 to 2015, sets out sectoral targets and indicators to be achieved. We have also retailored and aligned the MDGs to our national priorities with 88 indicators, connecting them to the national development plans. The Chairperson, we have heard from many of our leaders in the past few days that having reliable statistical data and closing the data gap remains our major challenge. We require reliable data to do planning for environmentally sustainable economic developments, for social services such as health, education, and infrastructure. With proper infrastructure in place and availability of reliable data, trade and investment can be facilitated and further enhanced to propel economic growth, as well as to track implementation of MDGs in the country. Excellencies, on transportation, like other countries, we are confronted with many challenges to develop appropriate and adequate transportation infrastructure that is vital to connecting the people in the country and also with other countries in our region. The geographical constraints and social issues resulting from complex land tenure system, the national transportation connectivity still remains a major challenge. And to address this, we have developed appropriate sectoral plans and have realigned our medium-term development plan for implementation. It is in this context that we are committed to the implementation of the Bhutan Declaration on Transport Development in Asia and the Pacific, and its Regional Action Plan program is a step in the right direction to foster regional transport cooperation and economic integration in support inclusive to sustainable development. Chairperson, at the sub-regional level, especially in the Pacific region, our focus is on inter-island infrastructure connectivity to facilitate and enhance the promotion of trade and investment opportunities among Pacific Island countries. As we have from the Pacific leaders, the inter-island shipping provision provided in the Regional Action Program is strategically critical to the Pacific Island developing countries, including Papua New Guinea. We are optimistic that this will enable people to access to lower transport costs and also easy movement of people and goods and services. Chairperson, there are enormous challenges in the area of trade and investment in relation to financial constraint, food shortages, fuel crisis, and value chain disruptions as a result of natural disasters and the effect of climate change. Mindful of the cost and benefit of trade liberalization, and in order to maximize the economic benefit from our natural resources, the government has introduced appropriate and outwards-oriented trade policies are pursued through an export-led growth strategy and development strategic plan with emphasis export promotion. Our priority in export promotion includes creating well-functioning domestic economic base with sound infrastructure, utilities, opening up access to export markets, promoting export-led growth in the industrial sector, and promoting targeted investment through economic corridors and free trade zones. Through regional cooperation and arrangement, and in connection with APEC, ASEAN, and others, Papua New Guinea is committed to support trade facilitation and business development effort that will stimulate and enhance investment in our region. Chairperson, Papua New Guinea is blessed with abundant flora and fauna, which is unique. It is estimated that some 8% of the world biodiversity is found in PNG. Yet, environmental consequences of development practices without concrete planning strategies and visions are having catastrophic effects on the social lives of our people. The current economic development activities, especially in the mining, petroleum, and forestry sectors, are not only affecting the environment, but are also changing the social structures of societies, creating social disintegration and disharmony among our people. More so, environmental degradation through resource development, climate change, impact, and potential sea level rise are issues of great concern to us. We have responded to global resolutions by having in place, for example, a climate compatible development plan to mitigate the effects of climate change, and a national protected area systems policy to protect that unique biodiversity, which is aligned to the overall national development plan and strategies. Chairperson, we are indeed proud to be part of the epicenter for marine biodiversity in the world that houses over 600 coral species, 3,000 species of fish, and with by and large greatest extent of mangrove forest on this planet head. To protect these vast marine resources, our focus in the near future is to develop the blue economy in a sustainable manner. The blue economy is a green whale in a global issue that the Pacific Island countries will need collective and collaborative thinking, strategies, support and action from other countries and partners to regain environmental and economic development balances and pursue a sustainable development plan. Excellencies, from our own experience, information and communication technology today plays a significant role in enhancing social cohesion, integrating global trade, and accelerating economic growth. We recognize that ICT has the potential of accelerating achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. But the digital divide and connectivity gaps still exist in many of our countries, including Papua New Guinea and the small Pacific Island countries. Indeed, the availability of the ICT infrastructure and access to services across the nation is improving, but low by world standards. Even the level of access in rural areas is much lower than PNG's national average, due to the combination of factors including low household income and high cost of providing service over difficult terrain to widely dispersed population. The policy reform that our government has introduced since 2010 on ICT to meet challenges has drastically increased the expansion of infrastructure rollout and voice services reaching many parts of the country. We recognize that competition alone cannot achieve the objectives to increase access to telecommunication and ITC services in rural areas. In this regard, and with the support of our donor partners, the government has introduced a policy to promote a universal access scheme through public-private partnership programs aimed at extending the infrastructure network and services to remote areas of the country. Chairperson, like other countries, Papua New Guinea is prone to natural disasters such as drought, flood, sea level rise, cyclones, volcanic eruptions, and landslides. We have in place a disaster management system that has established partnership with development partners and private sector to improve early warning systems. Chairperson, Papua New Guinea's population is currently more than 7 million, with 40% under the age of 15. The increasing population impact on employment opportunities, education and health services, and challenges the ability of the government to support productive investment and infrastructure development. In response, our government has introduced key national policies, which include tuition free national education policy that was introduced in 2012, and the National Education Plan and the Universal Basic Education Strategy. Through these positive actions by the government in addressing social issues, including HIV/AIDS, through Vision 2050 and supporting strategies, we are confident that Papua New Guinea will achieve the respective nationally tailored MDG targets and indicators. Chairperson, many of us are gathered here have recognized the need to further strengthen the work of United Nations, in particular ESCAP, to take account of changed circumstances under which it operates, as well as the new and emerging challenges that it must address, including the proposal to establish the Regional Infrastructure Development Bank, which Papua New Guinea supports. We commend the UN Under-Secretary General and her predecessor for the ongoing administrative and institutional reforms to improve efficiency of ESCAP to better serve the member states. Finally, Chairperson, Excellencies, and Delegates, as we get closer to identifying the region's development agenda beyond 2015, I am confident that member countries are united in the hope for a balanced and more sustainable world, are fixed on interlinked three pillars of sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Papua New Guinea, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate from Malaysia, Mr. Muhammad Idris, Director of Economic Planning Unit, Prime Minister's Department. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, Deputy Executive Secretary, Secretary of the Commissions, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, Malaysia delegation would like to express our sincere appreciation to ESCAP for the excellent arrangement and hospitality accorded to us during this 70th session and to the host country, Thailand. Honorable Chairman, Malaysia fully supports the adoption of forward-looking socio-economic policies to promote inclusive and sustainable development. Inclusiveness is a necessary key process for the shared prosperity and sustainable development. It will not only increase socio-economic stability and optimum utilization of resources, but also will demonstrate stronger competitiveness and equitable socio-economic development in this region. Malaysia's development philosophy of growth and distribution for the past 3 decades resulted in significant achievement in a more prosperous, inclusive and balanced economic participation of all Malaysian society. Malaysia managed to alleviate absolute poverty at the aggregation level and meet most of the MDGs. Malaysia is now focusing on addressing issues of subjective poverty and vulnerability from multidimensional perspective to face with unexpected circumstances, including market volatility and instability that will lead to increasing cost of living and vulnerability. Among other measures are building a more comprehensive social protection programs, as well as enhancing capacity of the institutions and capability of the vulnerable households. Malaysia will also continue to focus on accelerating strategic economic reform, improving efficiency of various market economy, and maintaining macroeconomic stability to enhance inclusivity and sustainability. Honorable Chairman, Malaysia recognizes that as a small and open economy, the country faces many challenges to pursue its inclusive and sustainable development agenda. Malaysia is also influenced by external environment such as global socio-economic crisis and development in international trade arrangement. In this regard, Malaysia believes that in pursuing inclusive and sustainable development, a stronger regional cooperation and integration is necessary to provide a platform for the formulation of collective action that will allow for greater achievement of the development goals. The cooperation should not only confine to extending networking to address current socio-economic issues, but also challenges for the post-2015 development agenda. Honorable Chairman, Malaysia will continue to play an active role within the ASEAN community to improve connectivity. Currently, Malaysia is the chair for Special Working Group Singapore Kunming Rail Link Project. This project connects with domestic rail networks to form continuous link from Singapore to Kunming, China, transcending Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Laos. The total length is 6,617 kilometers. This linkage will be part of the greater Trans-Asian Railway networks. Mr. Chairman, Malaysia believes that effort to promote regional connectivity for shared prosperity should not only focus on addressing issues pertaining to improving modality connectivity, but also on efficiency of the system, safety and security of the users and commuters, as well as trade activities. In conclusion, Malaysia strongly urges member states to fully support and build stronger collaboration to ensure a safer environment for the people to commute and promote greater socio-economic mobility, inclusivity, and prosperity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Malaysia, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate from the United States of America, Mrs. Kaisiel Grantisan, Economic Officer and Deputy Permanent Representative to ESCAP. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As a Pacific nation, the United States remains deeply committed to the stability, prosperity, and development of the vast Asia-Pacific region. As a proud member of the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, the United States appreciates the work of this body and to promote sustainable development and cooperation in the region. We congratulate Executive Secretary Akhtar on her new position and for managing a successful session and outcomes. Throughout the year, we have met regularly with the ESCAP Secretariat and with other delegations to exchange views on addressing the region's challenges. The United States carefully reviewed the resolutions introduced this year and actively participated in discussions on them. We thank all member states for their productive engagement and willingness to work together to forge consensus. The United States fully supports this year's theme of regional connectivity and shared prosperity. We are firmly committed to the security and prosperity of Asia and believe connectivity, energy security, and open markets can help to realize that objective. The United States remains focused on finding ways to enhance regional connectivity between different parts of the Asia-Pacific region. For several years now, we have pushed to enhance linkages between the energy-rich countries of Central Asia and the expanding economies of South Asia. We have made efforts to support an Indo-Pacific economic corridor to help bridge South and Southeast Asia. Fostering these types of connections, physical infrastructure, regulatory trade architecture, and human digital connectivity will eventually create links all the way from Central Asia to Southeast Asia. In addition, 5 years ago, we launched the Lower Mekong Initiative to strengthen cooperation and connectivity in mainland Southeast Asia. We have enhanced our partnership with ASEAN to help the organization expand connectivity within the ASEAN area, including through establishing the first non-ASEAN dedicated mission to the ASEAN Secretariat in 2010. The United States is committed to working with Asia-Pacific economies to promote sustainable economic growth and prosperity. Sustained and inclusive economic growth is critical in laying the foundations for meaningful results, whether in alleviating poverty, providing job opportunities, tackling environmental challenges, or improving education. Pursuing inclusive growth for all populations is a key element of a 21st century economic agenda. We envision a post-2015 agenda that articulates clear, ambitious, and measurable goals to advance 4 overarching priorities for development. First, a renewed effort to finish the unfinished business of the MDGs. That means attention to poverty eradication, improved health, education that focuses on outcomes as well as access, food security and nutrition, and water and sanitation, among other issues. Second, an emphasis on high-impact drivers of development outcomes and prioritization of policies and investments that have a long-term transformative impact, including inclusive, sustained, and sustainable economic growth, gender equality and empowerment of women and girls, sustainable energy for all, peaceful and safe societies, and open and accountable institutions. Third, integration of key environmental sustainability priorities with well-crafted targets like environmentally sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, healthy oceans, conservation and sustainable use of ecosystems, and resilience to help protect development gains from reversal. Finally, crafting a new global partnership that goes beyond traditional aid and is founded in a commitment by a diverse set of actors to mobilize a full spectrum of actions and investments from public, private, and domestic resources, and transparency to empower citizens. The United States continues to deepen its historic ties in the region, build new partnerships, and engage with existing multilateral organizations to pursue shared interests. Last week, White House Counselor John Podesta led the U.S. delegation to attend the Pacific Islands Forum post-forum dialogue in Palau. This week, Secretary Kerry is visiting Myanmar to participate in the Asean Regional Forum. The United States fully recognizes the growing need for effective multilateralism to address common global challenges. We look forward to continued constructive engagement within ESCAP and other multilateral fora as we work to confront today's greatest challenges together. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from the United States, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate of France, Mr. Rodolphe Champou, First Secretary, French Embassy. Now the floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Excellences, Monsieur le Président, distingués délégués, permettez-moi tout d'abord de féliciter le Premier ministre de Bhutan pour sa présidence et la secrétaire exécutive de la CESAP pour la qualité de son travail. La France se félicite de la qualité des débats qui se sont tenus ces jours-ci, où beaucoup de questions importantes ont été soulevées. Comment améliorer la connectivité régionale pour une prospérité partagée? Comment associer plus étroitement le secteur privé pour contribuer au développement durable? Comment promouvoir la croissance et l'emploi? Comment assurer collectivement le suivi des objectifs de l'agenda post-2015 pour le développement? Permettez-moi de souligner très brièvement 3 points. Le premier, c'est le suivi de l'agenda post-2015 pour le développement, pour lequel il est essentiel d'avoir une approche globale et coordonnée afin d'en assurer le succès. Nous voudrions à cet égard souligner l'importance du forum politique de haut niveau sur le développement durable qui a vocation à être l'enceinte qui assure le suivi et la mise en œuvre de l'agenda post-2015 pour le développement. La France pense que la CESAP et les commissions régionales ont un rôle essentiel à jouer pour l'examen et le suivi de ce forum. Le deuxième point, c'est la question du groupe des pays les moins avancés qui doit bénéficier d'une attention particulière. Malgré un contexte budgétaire contraint, les pays les moins avancés continuent de constituer une priorité de l'aide publique française au développement. À cet égard, nous saluons l'engagement de plusieurs PMA en faveur du développement durable, comme nous pouvons le constater lors de cette 70e session. Le troisième et dernier point est la question des petits États insulaires en développement. La communauté internationale doit prendre en compte les enjeux et les besoins spécifiques des petits États insulaires en développement. À cet égard, la conférence qui se tiendra à Samoa du 1er au 4 septembre constituera un enjeu important. Elle permettra notamment d'insuffler une dynamique positive à la 21e conférence des parties, COP21, sur les négociations climatiques, qui se tiendra à Paris en 2015. En tant que future présidence de Paris Climat 2015, la France jouera un rôle de facilitateur et les petits États insulaires en développement ont un rôle important à jouer dans la construction de l'accord. Il est donc essentiel de comprendre vos attentes et vos priorités dans ces discussions. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thanks, distinguished delegate from France, for your statement. The next speaker is the distinguished delegate from Turkmenistan, Mr. Atayev Mohammed Kalti, Director of Strategic Planning Institute. You have the floor.
Уважаемый председатель, уважаемые делегации, у меня не столько выступления, сколько объявления Я по поручению президента Туркменистана, а также нашего правительства, пользуясь случаем, приглашаю всех вас на международную конференцию высокого уровня, которая будет проходить в Ашхабаде 3-4 сентября этого года. Это как бы является продолжением инициатив Туркменистана по созданию транспортных коридоров. У нас раньше было создано коридор, железнодорожный и транспортный коридор Казахстан-Туркменистан. Сейчас завершается строительство Иран. И к этому Туркменистан как бы для восстановления нового Великого Шелкового пути старается провести соответствующие работы по созданию инфраструктуры, начиная от Каспийского моря, продолжая по всей территории своей страны. И поэтому мы приглашаем и знаем опыт стран ESCAP и самого Совета ESCAP, и с любезностью еще раз приглашаем к нам на эту конференцию. В целом, конечно, транспортные коридоры – это очень важная веха, но, как заметили вчера выступающие, надо создать и экономические коридоры. То есть транспортные коридоры должны превращаться в экономические коридоры. И на этой конференции мы хотим обсудить именно вопросы создания не только транспортных артерий, но и соответствующих инфраструктурного блока, логистики, таможенного контроля и других соответствующих структур. Поэтому еще раз подтверждаю поручение своего правительства и любезно приглашаю вас всех в Ашхабад 3-4 сентября. Спасибо.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Turkmenistan, for your statement. The next speaker is distinguished delegate from Hong Kong, China, Mr. Fong Gai, Director, Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office, the Government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Regions. The floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Hong Kong-China delegation, I would like to congratulate the government of Thailand and the ESCAP Secretariat on the very successful organization of this meeting, and I'm also grateful to the government and the people of Thailand for the very warm hospitality extended to us. I'd like to begin my remarks with an overview of the Hong Kong-China's economy. Our economy grew by 2.9% in 2013, a marked improvement over 1.5% in 2012. In the first quarter of 2014, our economy grew moderately by 2.5%. Looking ahead, the recovery of the advanced economies, if it gains further momentum, should be supportive to Asia's exports, including those of Hong Kong, China. Nonetheless, the external environment remains unsteady and is still subject to various uncertainties, including those arising from the monetary policy normalization of the United States, sluggish recovery of the Eurozone economies, and heightened geopolitical tensions in various regions in the world. Against this backdrop, Hong Kong, China emphasizes the importance of strengthening connectivity as a driver of economic growth in Asia and the Pacific, with due regard to the vast area and diversity of the region. Improve connectivity by facilitating secure and seamless flow of goods, services, people, capital, and technology for the development of global and regional supply chain and value chains, fuels and sustains the economic development of the region. Being the most populous region in the world, the Asia-Pacific region will be able to boost productivity and generate demands by improving connectivity within and across economies, especially in rural areas. Improved connectivity also plays a significant role in emergency response by reducing disaster risk and strengthening resilience. The natural disasters in the past few years, having regard to their scale and frequency, highlight the importance of connectivity. Challenges ahead of us are many and varied, given the different stages of economic, social, and technological development across the region, the huge and long-term investment required for physical infrastructure and human resources development, as well as the fast-changing landscape constantly reshaped by information and communication technology in our move towards a more interconnected Asia-Pacific region. And I would like to share our experience in this regard. On physical connectivity, we give priority to promoting physical connectivity through strengthening transportation networks, developing intermodal transfer facilities, advancing cross-border energy networks, and achieving high-speed broadband access. Hong Kong, China has been implementing 10 major infrastructure projects and other infrastructure projects of varying scales since 2007. And we are proceeding with the 30-kilometer-long Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and the high-speed railway, or linking Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, amongst others. We are pressing ahead with the planning of a third runway of our international airport and are progressively liberalizing our air services regime with a view to expanding our aviation network. And there is no one-size-fits-all approach in taking forward infrastructure projects. While public spending is our major source of financing, we adopt a mixture of modes of operation and financing to deliver infrastructure projects, taking into account commercial viability and completion time, etc. We see opportunities to advancing institutional connectivity through, for example, enhancing regulatory coherence and cooperation among domestic institutions, promoting cross-border financial cooperation, modernizing customs clearance arrangements, and expanding the application of trusted ICT and e-commerce environment in a more simplified, harmonized, transparent, integrated, coordinated, and coherent manner. And since 1997, Hong Kong, China started to establish a single electronic platform for the trading community to submit commonly used trade documents via private sector providers in an electronic manner. We have also put in place a legal framework to support safe and trusted e-commerce. Through the Hong Kong Computer Emergency Response Team Coordination Center, we coordinate and collaborate with regional and international computer emergency response teams on cross-border information security incidents. Hong Kong, China also attach great importance to people-to-people connectivity. We welcome visitors and adopt a liberal visa policy. Nationals of about 170 foreign countries and territories may come for business, social, or pleasure visits to Hong Kong, China, visa-free for a stay ranging from 7 to 180 days. And we value the benefits of sharing ideas through advancing work on cross-border education, cooperating in science and technology, as well as easing the mobility of people for business, tourism, and cross-border education and research. And we cherish forging bilateral agreements on cooperation in higher education. We have already signed relevant bilateral MOU with some economies, including the mainland of China, Korea, New Zealand, and Vietnam. Besides, we maintain an open and liberal policy towards professionals entering the city for employment. We welcome the exploration of different mechanisms to develop robust and active engagement, partnership, and cooperation with relevant stakeholders, such as business associations, academia, think tanks, international organizations, and sub-regional organizations to leverage on their insights and expertise to facilitate knowledge generation and sharing, to build synergy, and to identify areas of mutual interest for cooperative activities with a view to advancing the regional connectivity agenda. We should adopt an open-minded approach on all viable options, and we should not lose sight on the importance of capacity building as well as economic and technical cooperation. And at the same time, we need to set our priorities right in view of the human, natural, and financial resources available. The ultimate objective is to strive for a triple win for the environment, business, and community at large at the domestic level, as well as sustainable development at the sub-regional and regional levels with different comparative advantages. In closing, Hong Kong, China sees the importance of improving the physical infrastructure, smoothening in interoperability, and reinforcing borderless interaction and cooperation at all levels through a multi-pronged approach, with a view to addressing various choke points at the border, behind the border, and across border. Enhancing connectivity is by no means an easy task. It cannot be accomplished without close collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, both private and public. Hong Kong, China looks forward to working with ESCAP and members in further promoting and enhancing regional connectivity in the region. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Hong Kong, China, for your statement. That completes the list of speakers for this item and concludes our deliberations on agenda item 8. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and ladies and gentlemen, concerning our agenda item 10, which is other matters, do any delegation wish to take the floor on any item, on any other pertinent matter that has not been covered during the course of our deliberations? Since there's no, there's no further comment on item other matters, this concludes our deliberations on all the substantive items before the plenary. Let us now move to our final agenda item, the adoption